Today's podcast was brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Pixel Sift. With over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Hello and thank you for joining us on episode 64 of Pixel Sift. As always, I'm joined by my co-hosts Scott and Johnny. Yeah, I'm running things today, so Johnny can go home.
What's your name, by the way? I didn't catch that
my name's
one
Mitch.
at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, also on today's show, we're joined by Daniel Sun from Sun Studios. He's here to talk about his latest project, Armed with Wings, Rearmed. How are you, Daniel?
I'm good. Welcome. Hi, everyone.
All right, we'll hear much more from Daniel later on in the show. Other than that, what else have we got today, Johnny?
Yep, we'll be taking a closer look at marathon gaming. It's a really good way to raise money for charities, but does it have some downsides? And are people putting themselves at risk of harm?
Yes, thank you, G. The Nintendo Switch has already begun landing in people's hot little hands, but the reaction and overall attitude towards the much-hyped new console hasn't been entirely favourable. We'll be discussing the ins and outs of this mixed reception in our our final topic today.
Wicked, let's check it out.
You're listening to Pixel Sift.
Gaming marathons have been the main way that players use the games they love for a good cause. But what are the consequences of subjecting yourself to the sleep deprivation of a 24-hour or even a 48-hour session? Sadly, we got the answer to that question last week when popular live streamer Brian Vigneault AKA PoShYbRiD passed away while using his stream to raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Look, it's very popular. It's a good way to kind of keep people on the line and watching you. But what do we think about, this sort of hobby, or I guess this method of using Twitch and live streaming to jump in and raise some money?
Well, the idea of marathoning something in the name of a good cause is not new. I mean, there are people at Telethon here in Perth that ride on a kind of like a stationary bicycle for 24 hours straight, or they kind of just do a marathon in the name of a charitable foundation. And I think gaming is just something that is relatively new to the medium, and I'm sure bad things have happened in regards to other people that have deprived themselves from sleep or taken up an extensive physical challenge in the name of a charity. But I guess this is the first time gaming has really experienced it with the 24-hour live stream, so it's really hitting the community pretty hard.
Well, in regards to charity, anyway, of course, there's been heaps on way too many deaths from extended gaming periods. I mean, you could call them marathons. There's a bunch of lists. I won't go into them right now. We might have a bit of time later. But the idea of doing anything for an extended period of time, like you said, has been around for ages. You had, competitions to see who could, keep their hand on the car the longest before they whatever. And it comes with its risks. There was even a competition a few years back it was 2007, of who could drink the most water for some competition. And a lady died from that, of course, from, overwatering. Water intoxication, I think they call it. So there's always risks when you start pushing things into the extreme levels, and unfortunately, gaming's in the spotlight for it at the moment.
I think that's the reason why. That's the reason why people donate, because someone is going through this trial and it's for a good cause, and otherwise it would seem quite weird and a little bit. Well, there's no reason why you would do it, but because it's for a good cause, it is something that we need to we'll celebrate and support.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Mitch, basically, that, there is the novelty of watching somebody do something that is challenging, and it is hard to play games for 28 hours or 48 hours in a row. And it gets entertaining because you get sort of, an interesting look into like raw humanity of someone trying to make this happen. And that's why people do it, and that's why it works. I mean, some of the charity streams that I've seen that have worked really well, Awesome Games Done Quick, for example, where they raise a lot of money for stuff. They have like teams of people, and they have a lot of people who kind of shift in and out. And that's a good way to kind of balance it, so you can have plenty of stuff still happening for people watching, but that way you're not completely burning yourself out, for a good cause.
Yeah, so on that burnout idea, the proper streamers that are doing this for extended periods of time, your man versus game, etc., like that, they take certain responsibilities upon themselves to make sure they're in a condition that's going to be able to last that time. There's lots of things available on Reddit and Arena Junkies with advice on how to prepare yourself for these kind of things, making sure you're eating the right things, even having a physical beforehand, see if you've got any health problems that this could push over the limit. Making sure you get a certain amount of rest and or exercise in, not eating badly, even your choice of, drugs. And I mean that in a legal way as well, your caffeines and your sugars and etc. If you're doing these things for such a long time, then you will go through the ups and downs of, irritability, withdrawals, and all sorts of issues, and increased heart rate and pressure on your body. It seems like a simple and fun thing that harks back to our days of being young and staying up all night and playing video games, but it is a serious thing that people are undergoing.
Yeah, health and gaming is something that we've wanted to touch on for a while, and I think my main tip is just have a glass of water next to you, and if it's empty, go refill it.
Yeah,
because that helps not only keep you alert, but it also kind of helps you feel better while you're gaming, to be honest.
I'd love to hear Dan's thoughts on this topic.
Yes, I've done a lot of 24-hour, not gaming marathons, but development sessions.
Yeah, okay.
I would never have thought that I would be at risk of dying. So it's really, it's shocking when you hear or even read the report that, father of 3 has died.
Yeah.
24-hour gaming marathon.
And, the thing that actually pushed him over the limit was, the overexhaustion, the lack of sleep. And so it's something that can kind of befall anybody.
Yeah, it's actually frightening. Yeah, but most people aren't. I wonder if this is something that should be addressed formally as a gaming marathon thing, or broadly. I think broadly, just if you're going to do any sort of long stretch, then I think probably it might be a good idea to inform people about. It's make sure that. Maybe just get them to check, have you slept beforehand, or have you had enough water, or something like that.
That's it. I think it just needs
to
prevent. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, prevent these kind of things in the future. Just something to inform people that people wouldn't say it like this, but people have been hurt or died in the past.
Yeah, I mean, people need to understand that what they're doing is actually quite serious, and they need to kind of take some responsibility upon themselves to prepare themselves for their body for undergoing such a marathon thing. But I mean, this idea of long-time gaming and marathon gaming isn't anything new. From the stuff I was looking up, the first deaths that I could go back to, unfortunately, from gaming, is in 1981. A couple of guys died from playing the robot killing machine game Berserk.
Okay.
Which was a pretty cool little game from way back. And there's just a shopping list of stories from Korea and China and Taiwan, and most of these places are in internet cafes as well. And people, from 19 hours to 22 days I saw on one, ridiculous amounts of time. And again, it's just a little bit of personal responsibility. You need to look after yourself, man. Because if you don't, nobody will.
And pretty much all these instances is just either sleep deprivation or malnourishment, pretty much.
Absolutely. It's always something like that. It's always just a lack of care in some facet. Your body can only handle so much. And this is from people 18 through to 38, so you're never too young to look after yourself, and you're never too old, of course.
I think, you just need to think about it like this. You're doing something for a good cause, and let's let everyone celebrate the hard work that you do instead of, mourning a tragedy if you don't make it.
And there are charities that just kind of set themselves up for this kind of thing as well. There's one called Extra Life, and that kind of puts together thousands of players around the world for 24-hour gaming marathons to support Children's Miracle Network hospitals. It's been around since 2008 and has raised $30 million for hospitals. So, that's probably a place that's doing it really well, and they're a great example. But, with the rise of gaming and the more prolific state of Twitch streaming and extended gaming, we do need to kind of bring this into the public light a little bit.
Mainly the encouragement of doing it as a team. I think
the
lone person challenging this kind of thing alone and by themselves, I think that is the main danger.
For sure, and kudos to you, but make sure you look after yourself, because like Gianni said, nobody wants to be mourning a death, especially when it was supposed to be for, generally, I guess, preventing death.
All right, let's jump into our next topic. Pixel Sift!
It's not Pixel Siv, it's Pixel Sift.
Pixel Sift! Daniel Sun joins us over the net to fill us in on the latest developments of his newest title, Armed with Wings Rearmed. And for the uneducated, Daniel, could you give us a summary of Armed with Wings?
Yes, Armed with Wings is a 2D action platformer series in a stylish black and white visual, similar to Limbo, but I'd like to think of it as Limbo meeting Super Smash Bros. Mm-hmm. It was a Flash game series that I started in 2008. And I made 3 main Armed with Wings games that were all Flash games that people could play for free.
Why did you switch over to making a non-Flash game?
I wanted to break into the Steam market. I didn't want to be doing free Flash games forever, even though I had started my game development career and was really rooted in the browser and online games. But I knew I needed to be on console eventually. But Steam is like a step towards that, and so I knew. I've delivered 3 main games for the browser that people really, really like, and I feel like they'd like it even more on Steam. Something that's a bit more of a solid game experience than something lighter that you'd get on Flash.
A bit more tangible. What were some of the things about Flash games that really kind of inspired you to start making your own?
The whole Newgrounds community is actually amazing. Like, there's a lot of bad Flash. There was and is a lot of bad Flash stuff out there. But Newgrounds really kind of cultivated this really cool animator community and game developers as well. A lot of people who started off as animators got into the game development side of things as it was a little bit easier to make money from in those days. What was the question again? I tend to...
Well, what were some of your inspirations, I guess?
Inspirations. The Newgrounds community fueled everything, right? So Tom Fulp, he'd be delivering really top Flash games. Of course, he's the one of the guys behind the behemoth who does Castle Crashers. But before Castle Crashers, there was Alien Hominid, and that was a huge Flash game. Pico School was another huge one. That was super early Flash days.
Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time on Newgrounds.
Yeah, there was heaps of high quality games on Newgrounds, and then other portals as well. Like Armor Games was huge with pushing these high quality browser games, and this is all before the App Store really kicked off and became huge. I like to think of the Flash game market kind of turned into the App Store per se. Like, it's that same kind of experience, just far more accessible.
Yeah,
because it's in everyone's hands instead of on their computers.
Do you think? Well, I noticed with the the latest demo that you had for your PAX build that you had last year, you've put it back up on Newgrounds and it's available to play there. Are you happy that you can still, like, there's still capability to do that, to make really nice, rich games that exist on the web, but also have the other side of that, having good either console level games or Steam level games?
Super happy. Yeah, super happy. I really like that I was able to. Rearmed on Steam is still developed using Flash tech, even though it's packaged as a desktop app. So I was able just to distribute the game to the browser, just a bite-sized demo. And I get to lean on my roots by doing that, which is always good. And I get to speak to that old Newgrounds community and the broader Flash game community, whoever is interested in playing Flash games. I get to speak to them and tell them about my new exciting product on Steam.
So how is the community on Newgrounds? I know, as you said there, a lot of people have moved on from the browser-based Flash game era that I remembered very playing a lot of time in high school and primary school playing a lot of those games. Is that community still around? Are people still very passionate about that sort of thing? Or is it sort of just a community that started there and has now moved into different areas?
Two sides to the community. There's like the content creator community, and then there's the I guess the audience or the consumer community. And as far as content creators, there are some of the older guys still around doing stuff. I'm sure that they're also focusing on YouTube as well. There's some new younger blood, and I'm not really familiar with the artists and creators these days, but I definitely see a lot of blog posts happening on Newgrounds that people are blogging about their work, not on their website, but on Newgrounds, which is how they're reaching an audience. There is still an audience. I still see comments. The homepage is getting updated frequently with new work. So it's definitely a good place for discoverability, and that tells me that there's still an active community there.
What's some of the, I guess, key differences and maybe the challenges of moving from this sort of browser-based where you've got something built in as a community? I know discoverability is, I guess, one of the big problems that a lot of indie developers tend to sort of say is a roadblock for them. What are the challenges of moving to a different platform?
In terms of moving to another platform, discoverability definitely is a huge issue, I would say. It was a lot easier to make money from ad revenue on the Flash game market than there ever was. That's not exactly true at all. But generally, for a small indie developer, it's a lot easier to make money from a Flash game than it is to roll the dice on the App Store and launch a game alongside 100 other games that day. There was good curation, really good curation, particularly on Newgrounds as well, because it's all curated by Tom Falk. What goes on that front page, he manages everything, not a robot or algorithm. So he'd put something up there, and then you'd guarantee to get a certain amount of views, and especially in the older days, it was a lot easier, much easier than the App Store's ever been. That's for sure.
Do you think the other platforms need that?
Steam is doing a good job, I think, with curation, especially considering the scale and the size of Steam. Their library is huge as well, and they need to be able to show off games that will sell and also show off new things as well. And I think they do a good job. I think the App Store, is a really tough one because there's just so many games or so many apps being released, and I'm not sure if Apple or Android or Google do a really good job of discoverability there. So much so that user acquisition is a huge thing, paying for users to push you up the charts. That's definitely a thing, and a lot of the big guys who are on mobile, like Marvel, I'm sure they're doing that, and it's super hard to compete.
I found it really interesting that you said the Newgrounds and that kind of Flash community was a lot easier as a developer to make some kind of money from it, and not profits, but I'm sure some kind of money in compared to the way that we've got things going with the with the App Store and whatever. Do you think there's room for something new that isn't quite Steam, but isn't quite App Store, isn't quite Flash? Something? Do you think there's room to improve upon? Do you think that the perfect kind of platform is still kind of ready to be discovered?
No, I think we're doomed.
Yeah. Oh, that's how optimistic of you.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think what made the Flash game market really good for discoverability, just extracting any value, whether it's views or money.
Yep. Okay.
It was a lot easier to extract that value, and I think because there were so many different portals, like Newgrounds had or has, what are the figures? I'm not even sure. But let's just say 100,000 hits a day or something like that. Armor Games would have maybe more. Congregate would have about the same. There was many websites that I could list heaps of portals. Congregate, Armor Game, Miniclip was a huge one. Everyone remembers Miniclip. Addicting Games is massive. were so much more. Now there's less, but there was so much, and all these websites had huge volumes of traffic and huge amount of games on the front page. I remember some of the portals even had tiny little icons. They were able to fit how many games, like, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 games on the home page as their featured content. And all of them you could just watch the views and refresh every minute and just see there's another 100 views. So there's another 100 views. So discoverability was really good because there were so many different portals. I don't see that happening on the App Store. I think on Android they've tried. Congregate had their own app, which was like its own game store. I think it got taken down eventually in the early days.
Just to wrap up,
in China there are...
Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Sorry. I just thought we'd wrap up just by bringing it back to your game. If people want to know more about your game, where can they find it?
armedwithwings.com.
Excellent.
Or Google Armed with Wings Steam.
And Dan, just one more question before we go. What is it about game development and making games that, really excites you and kind of has kept you going for so long?
Oh, that's a tough question. I've started to question that myself now, actually.
Are you thinking about kicking it out?
About leaving? No, definitely not. Actually, interestingly, I thought about I do other work outside of games as well, and whenever I do that, I realize how much I need games. So I think it's just fun. It's all the mediums I love come together. Creative art and the freedom to do whatever you want. Like if you're doing creative client work, you don't get to do what you want. You have to do what the client wants. But game development, you get to do whatever you like. And building an audience. I love building an audience and the fan base around Armed with Wings. That's my favorite thing. When people join my Discord channel or my forum or Facebook or engage with me and talk about how much they like Armed with Wings or they've played the old Flash games and they're happy that there's a new game, that's really the driving force. I love it too. I love growing the brand and the fan base and just making people happy.
That's extremely well put, Daniel. All right, so I think we will move on to our next topic.
Yes.
You're listening to Pixel Sift, or you might be watching Pixel Sift on Twitch. Pixel Sift.
Yes, so some members of the gaming journalism community have been lucky enough to get a hold of one of the most anticipated gaming consoles to date, the Nintendo Switch. However, regardless of the hype, rumours of poor battery life and an abysmal launch library have even the most diehard Nintendo fans keeping their wallets in their pockets. So, for our final topic today, we ask ourselves, Nintendo Switch, dead on arrival or merely misunderstood?
So if
Why?
Not all at once,
Why?
one at a time.
Why, Johnny?
Go, Mitch.
Why?
After
Mitch,
you.
take it.
Okay, so it says a 3-hour battery life, right? I mean, I can get probably 4 hours out of my DS right now. And this Switch is like an HD, and it's capable of a lot more than my DS. So I thought that was pretty reasonable, to be honest.
I know. The abysmal and poor battery life are not my words, to be fair.
Yeah.
This is all paraphrased.
Yep.
3 to 6 hours.
Which is,
I believe it is.
pretty decent.
Sit there with your stopwatch and watch the time click down as you're trying to play some Zelda. I think the interesting thing about this particular, the criticism of it, and what I really wanted to sort of discuss is why are people so quick to tear this thing down before they've even got their hands on it? What is it about Nintendo that attracts so much ire and attracts so much criticism that people don't want to do it?
I think it's just that Nintendo so often comes so close to being amazingly just brilliant, but miss the mark kind of constantly. And especially after the whole Wii U thing, let down, I guess, and poor marketing, etc. Nintendo Switch came out of the doors blazing, and everyone thought it was amazing. So, like I said, there was a lot of hype. And now we're getting closer to launch, and there's a lot of stuff they still haven't released, especially this close. We should know more, and it leaves people with doubts because of their poor track record with these sort of things. I think the last really good success, I think, was probably the Wii, and if you don't include the DS and their fantastic handheld records.
Well, look, Drofner on Twitch has got the definitive answer for you, Scott. The Nintendo Switch, it's dead on arrival. No hype at all. It's dead on arrival. So, yeah. Well, if you talk about the 3DS, like when the 3DS came out, there was like a lot of criticism that came out as it was in people's hands. Like it was really kind of unfinished. It didn't have an online store. A lot of things had to be patched in sort of after the fact. And it was kind of the people who are your biggest fans. And I think these are the ones who are kind of getting upset and having more sort of criticism of this, is that the people who go out there and pre-order it straight away are the ones that are kind of burnt. And someone who waits 6 months to a year gets a more complete package because it's been patched up and ready to go, basically.
Like regarding the media's approach to the Switch, like there's the CNET senior editor Sean Hollister doesn't like he made a video about the kickstand on the back of it, and it's pretty much him just knocking the thing over and just being rough with it. I'm like he's treating it like I don't think anything would stay up.
No, but to be fair,
it was not like that. Yeah,
like, I've read this other places, along with the many other things that are wrong with this, like. The kickstand is apparently quite flimsy and seems destined to snap off. Both the Joy-Con grip and the Pro Controller, like a headphone output, like so it's straight away behind what is the benchmark of consoles. The charging port is on the bottom of the Switch. There's no HDMI output on the tablet. It's just all these shopping list of disappointments that we kind of come to expect from consoles these days.
Do you think this was all started by the Xbox One? And when the Xbox One was released in E3, it was like, oh yeah, we're not buying that. Half the community was just like, no.
I think the thing is with this is just that there's so many little things, and this is classic Nintendo, that there's so many little things that straight away everybody else can see, well, that should be different. So it's nothing on its own. Like, yeah, the kickstand's not a big deal on its own, but when you add it to all these other things that people can just seemingly visibly see should be fixed, together they kind of create a big lacking. And like I said, there's a lot of information we still don't know. This could be an amazing console, I think, if they pull off the virtual console side of things, and if the Pro Controller or second controller releases are comfortable and workable. If 1 terabyte SD cards become cheaper soon, it'll be great. There's lots of factors. This is the problem. People want something great out of the box, and this is probably not going to be. If you wait, it'll be great.
They deserve something great out of the box, though.
But they're not going to get it, and you rarely do these. Like, especially with something. This is a big change for Nintendo in a way. So you need to be patient. If you want it to succeed, just wait a little bit.
I do feel like they're being punished for being innovative.
Yeah, but they're being punished before even anything's even happened either, which is
that's true.
Unfair.
It's the Minority Report pre-crime division. Get punished before you do anything. Dan, are you going to race out and get a Switch tomorrow? Are you going to make the midnight launch tonight or something?
Oh, I'm totally making the midnight launch. I'm going to have it in my hands in approximately 4 hours.
So this is real, not sarcasm?
Yeah, this is real. It's 9 p.m. now, so I've got 9, 10, 11. I've got 3 hours until I grab my Switch.
Oh, I'm excited for you.
I'm stoked.
Sweet.
You're going to get out there and fight off all the trolls saying it's dead on arrival?
Oh, yeah.
For deafs, I'm not going to be playing Zelda.
So I assume you're going to a midnight launch, right, of the Nintendo Switch?
Yes.
Yep.
Can you take some photos for us and see how many people are there? I'm just curious. I'm legit curious how many people will be at this midnight launch.
Yeah.
I'll take some photos, but I will say I'm not in the city or in a major EB Games. I'm going to I'm in the suburbs,
Okay.
Nice.
Hitting the straight up burbs.
But yeah. I was at the midnight launch for the Wii back in 2006.
Yeah. Wow.
And I remember the line. And it was at the same EB Games in my hood. So I'll see if it was bigger than what the Wii was in 2006. That'd be interesting to find out, actually. Quite interesting.
it will be interesting. I think there's the Wii had such a big, broad appeal that so many people who were non-gamers were going out and buying them. But then you've got people who like JC Joker, who said that they're a Nintendo fanboy, but only owns the NES through to the 1964, the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, well,
it's almost like a 1964.
I'm exactly the same. I have a NES, Super NES, and 64, and as much as I did like the idea of GameCube and Pikmin and
Did you say Pigman?
Pikmin. That was like the only reason I wanted to get the hello Pikmin. No, that was the main reason I wanted to get a GameCube for that game. But yeah, I also stopped at 64 because that's kind of when they stopped kicking ass. Undebatably, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look,
the GameCube was a hard period that was hard to be a Nintendo fan during the GameCube. Tell you what.
Sure.
It was.
I switched to PlayStation at that point.
I didn't understand that people didn't like Super Mario Sunshine. I thought that was a great game, and apparently it was not.
The issue was that not a lot of people got to play it. Fair.
Well, anyway, it's one of these things that there are lots of people out there, and I think your most passionate fans are the most hard to please. And they're the people who have been playing for ages and ages and ages. They want the next big thing because they're the ones who are so heavily invested, and it's always difficult to basically sell it to them because they know what the greatest thing is, and they're not 100% of the customer base. They're only some portion of the customer base. Loyal, yes, but you may be better off chasing 50% more people who aren't as locked in as someone is. So anyway,
I
think that's why Nintendo goes for broad appeal, because if they were just to double down on gamers and only gamers, I feel like every company it gets treated a little bit differently, just based on what they've done and who they are and how the consumer feels about them. But with Nintendo, people are particularly harsh. I think. Fair enough, because the Wii U was a complete flop. A great console, but a complete flop. And so I can understand the consumer's point of view and why they're very, very hard on Nintendo. But at the end of the day, the Switch is a high-powered tablet that plays Breath of the Wild wherever you want.
Yeah.
And so that's the base. It's we know that it's gonna at least do that, and so now it's just give us games.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's right. Yeah.
We know it's not going to be perfect, but it is a tablet that plays Breath of the Wild. So everybody just chill.
Tablet that plays. Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a great little thing. It won't play the most cutting edge, but it's going to play quite well, I think.
Yep.
Anyway, I think we've come to the end of our show.
That we have.
Thank you for joining us on Pixel Sift. We hope you enjoyed yourself. As usually, putting the links up on our website for everything we talked about today and all of Daniel's work. If you can find all that.
That website is Mitch.
Thank you very much, Johnny. The website is www.pixelsift.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
Scott,
right.
where can people find us on social media?
As always, people, you can find us at facebook.com/pixelsift, twitter.com/pixelsift, twitch.tv/pixelsift, and youtube.com/pixelsiftau.
And we've got stacks of old episodes, heaps of Let's Plays, lots of other bits and pieces which you can find on iTunes. You can find it on Stitcher. If you're in the US, you can find it on Google Play as well. We're on YouTube. Anywhere that you've got some sort of thing to watch media or listen to media, that's where we will be. I'll just say as well that we've just moved to a new format now every week. We're still on every week, but we're going to do sort of an alternating format between the podcast episodes, which you could get on iTunes and all that sort of thing, which will happen on this week. And then the off weeks will be us playing games. Next week, we're going to be playing a game called Death Squared by SMG Studios, and the week afterwards we'll be talking to some of the developers of that game. They're based in Sydney, and they'll be joining us. So we'll be playing the game next week, so that's next Thursday night, and we'll be talking to the developers the week after that.
Beautiful.
Yep, and so while you're on iTunes as well, if you give us a review and a star rating, that would really help us out to find our show. Also, yep.
Peace out.
We will see you next time. See you there.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye-bye.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/pixelsift. With over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.